Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Brandon Lester Fishing. Hey, today's video is probably the most highly requested one that I've had since I started kind of trying to build this channel. A lot of people wanting to know about my electronic setup, specifically about side imaging, what I look for on a brand new body of water, how I go about finding crappie on a brand new body of water. So today what I want to do, I want to take you through my entire electronic setup. I run all Lowrance electronics. I want to start with side imaging, a little bit on down imaging. I'm going to go through the settings. I'm going to go through what I look for on the map. I've never crappie fished on this particular lake that we're on. We're on a new lake today. It's not necessarily a new lake to me, but it is for crappie fishing. I've fished a few bass tournaments here over the years. This lake's in Middle Tennessee also. It's called Normandy Lake. And I've never crappie fished here. Don't know anything about it. So we're going to go see if we can find some. I'm going to show you guys how I dial in my electronics. Everything you need to know. Stay tuned. This is going to be a good one. All right, guys, so the first thing I want to talk about is where the heck do you even start when you go to a new body of water trying to find crappie? And I want to talk about specifically in the late fall and the winter time, because right now it's December. The water temperature is showing 55. I just put in, but it's going to be right around that 55, 56. It may still be settling just a little bit, but here's a look at this lake. I'm right here at the dam. There's the dam right there. I don't know if you guys can see that, but there's the dam right there. And I put in there for a reason, because I wanted to show, you know, as the day progresses, if we are fortunate enough to find some, which I believe we will be, how I went about doing it. Now, the first thing you need to know about a lake is what type of cover, what type of structure does that particular lake have in it. Do your research. I know from fishing this lake a little bit in the past, bass fishing and stuff, that this lake only has about 2 or 3 docks on the entire lake. So mainly what we're going to be looking for today, we're going to be looking for laydowns. There is a little bit of standing timber in this lake. We're going to be looking at some of that standing timber. Obviously crappie are going to relate to that, but this time of the year crappie will relate to whatever they have available in the lake. Another good place to look is bridges. We're going to scan a few bridge columns today and look and see if we can find some fish on some bridge columns as well. But as you can see right here, I'm going to start looking. Here's a big creek arm right here. This is the main body of the lake, and this is just my Lowrance C map. I've got the Tennessee HD card in here, and I've got it shaded. I think 5 feet and less is in red, but all of that really doesn't matter because this lake's in drawdown right now anyway. But what I want to look for in the winter, I'm going to start my search. I can't talk this morning, y'all excuse me. I'm going to start my search this time of year on these steeper type places. You see how this point right here, the contours are steeper on this particular point. All right, as we go back in this creek right here, you can see the creek channel hugs this right hand side because this left hand side is real flat. And I'm not saying there's not going to be any crappie anywhere on that left hand side, but if you want to find crappie quick, follow this creek channel on this right hand side, because I've found this time of year those crappie are going to be closer to deep water. It's just the way it is. I don't care if you're on the Tennessee River, Gunnersville, this time of year, whether you're in a creek or you're on the main body of a body of water, when that water temperature is cool, those fish want to be close to deep water. All right, I just went right across from where the boat ramp is, and I'm just idling right around this deep point right here that I was showing you guys. You can see up there, I mean, it's basically a bluff wall down through there is what it is. And what I'm looking for down through there is something isolated. So I'm going down through there and I see this big rock right here. Y'all see that great big rock sticking up? And there's a school of fish sitting right up on top of it. Now, I don't know for sure if that's crappie, but I have a hunch that it probably is, just because of the way they're stacked and sitting right there and the size of them. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna put my cursor right there. I just gave y'all a spot if you know how to take it. I'm gonna put my cursor right there and I'm gonna hit save waypoint. Clear cursor. Now, I come back over here to this side And that waypoint's dropped right there. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna keep scanning, and then we'll come back a little later and we're gonna fish a few of these places. This video, I don't know how much I'm gonna fish in this video because I really want you guys to get a good understanding of my electronic setup and how I go about finding and catching fish, specifically crappie, this time of the year. So there's spot number one that I marked. I'm not positive if that's crappie, but I think it is. We'll find out a little later. Before I go any further here, I want to show you guys my settings. So starting with the big picture, I run 4 Lowrance HDS Live units on my boat. We'll talk about my units up front here in a little bit. I want to start with these right here at my console. These are how I find most of my fish throughout the year. Bass fishing, crappie fishing, doesn't matter. And this is my setup 90% of the time right here. This is how they're set. This is my map. That's the C-Map HD Tennessee map, like I said. This right here, this is obviously 2D sonar. That's running off of a through-hole transducer so that I can have, I can still get my depth while I'm running 70 miles an hour down the lake. That's very important on places where, I go a lot of places where I don't know where the heck I am, so that's pretty important. All right, so over here, this is how I do most of my hunting right here. You see I've got it split between side and down. On my side, I run my frequency on 800 kilohertz most of the time. If I'm fishing in 10 feet of water or less, basically all day, I'll put it down on 455. But if I'm fishing 10 feet deep or greater, I'm gonna be on 800 kilohertz pretty much all the time. Every single system, every setup is a little bit different, but I'm gonna give you my settings and they'll be a good place to start. I've got my contrast set on auto +2. I run pallet number 10. And I've got it set on 80 feet on either side. I vary from 80 to 100. A lot of times if I'm looking for like isolated structure, I'll run it on out there to 100. I have even run it on out there to 120. When I'm looking for crappie, I like to leave it on 80 because I still get good detail. The further out you go, the less detail you're going to be able to see. The closer in you get, the more detail you're going to be able to see. So keep that in mind. That's on side imaging. Now this is down imaging right here. To me, Lowrance has the best down scan on the market, bar none. Yes, I'm sponsored by Lowrance. I love Lowrance. I'm a Lowrance guy. I had an opportunity the last time when I decided to go with Lowrance. I could have went with 2 or 3 different electronics companies. I love Lowrance electronics, and downscan is one of the reasons why I'm so confident with my Lowrances. I mean, you guys look at how clear that is. I mean, there's no guesswork there. And my settings on my downscan, I run pallet number 9. There's several different pallets. Everybody's eyes see things a little bit different. But I'm on pallet 9 right now. I've got my contrast set to auto +1, and I keep my range on auto pretty much. And that's how I do that. You know, it's pretty cut and dry, but that Lowrance downscan, especially when you're scanning for bass and when you're scanning for deep water crappie over the top of brush piles and stuff like that, the target separation on it is just second to none. You can see these are bait fish right here. You see how small they are. Well, this right here is probably a school of little yellow bass, maybe bluegill, something like that. I mean, that's about as clear as you're possibly gonna get. So that's what I'm looking at right here at the console. All right, now check that out right there. Y'all see how, yeah, that's crappie. I mean, there ain't no doubt. Y'all see how those fish are sitting on that brush or whatever that is. Let me stop this right here so I can explain. See how those fish are sitting vertical? They're kind of stacked on top of each other. Here's a school of crappie right here. Here's a school of crappie right here. I'm gonna mark those, and we'll come back and fish for them later. Those are crappie, there's no doubt. Anytime you see fish stacked vertical like that, that looks like those fish are sitting on a brush pile is what they're sitting on. But that's what you're looking for. I mean, there's no doubt. They're sitting right out on the point. There's a bluff wall right there, and they're sitting right out on the point. There's a brush pile on that point. So that's possibly school number 2. All right, guys, I know we're kind of all over the place here, but I'm hoping this video will all come together and everything will make sense. But right here's another one of the most obvious things that you want to look for on this type of lake this time of year. Y'all see that lay down right there on the bank? I don't know for sure. Yeah, there's fish in it. See them right there on side scan. So those lay downs, when they come out off those bluff walls, it's the perfect combination for those fish. You know, they've got deep water real close by. They can slide up in the water column. They can slide down in the water column with fronts and all that. Like on a post frontal day, a lot of times they'll get down there deeper, 20 foot, 25 sometimes. On a day like today, you can see it's cloudy. We've got a little bit of wind. It's a little bit of rain floating around. They'll get up there, you know, 4 to 6 feet. And like these fish right here, they've got bait fish right in there with them. So they're probably actively feeding right now. But that's another real key thing. Now, one thing about brush piles that I want to talk about, I've noticed over the years, and probably the most overlooked piece of structure that not a lot of people talk about when crappie fishing is shade. So if you can find a brush pile that's fresh and still real bushy, it's gonna have them. You don't want one that just fell in a day or two ago, but if it fell in, say, a month ago, 2 months ago, it's probably more likely to have fish in it than a brush pile that's been there for 5 years, because that one that's been there for 5 years has started decaying and it's not offering as much shade and as much cover for those fish. So keep that one in mind. Find those fresh bushy laydowns if you can find them, if they're available in your lake. All right, guys, we've gotten back here toward the back of this creek. I'm gonna spin you around here so you can see this map, and I want to zoom in a little bit. I want to show you guys why I'm choosing what I'm choosing and what I'm fixing to do right here. So as you can see, the creek channel runs along the right side of this creek. You see where the contours are tighter right here? That's where the old creek channel runs. All right, so, and we're still in 20 foot of water, so it's still plenty deep for crappie in 55-degree water. So what we've got coming up right here, y'all see that standing timber right there? That standing timber, what that is, that was right on the edge of the old creek channel. When they came in here and dammed this lake up, they just left that standing timber standing there. So I'm just gonna idle right down the side of this standing timber, and we're gonna look on my side scan and my down scan, and we're gonna look and see if we can find a school of crappie right here. Again, I've not made a cast yet this morning. I'm still just looking. I think not enough people understand how much time it takes to actually hunt and find you some good schools of fish. I mean, there's no telling how many hours I've spent, hours and hours and hours, just idling, looking for schools of crappie, schools of bass on all these lakes around Middle Tennessee, on the Tennessee River. Gosh, I wish I had $1 for every hour I've spent idling on Lake Guntersville, just trying to find that little spot that most people don't know about, that not a lot of people have found. And fishing pressure will move these fish around. There's a school of crappie right there. All right, that's what I'm looking for. You guys see that? So right here, there's a standing tree. There's the crappie suspended right up in the top of it right there. That's what I'm looking for. I'm gonna mark that. We will be coming back to fish that spot, I promise you. There's another good school right there, sitting in a tree. I'm gonna mark those. All right, guys, so obviously another really great place to look for crappie on a new body of water is around bridges, especially in the wintertime. I'm gonna scan this column right here and talk while I'm doing it, but the reason why crappie like to get on bridges is because it creates like a funnel situation. There's some right there. Y'all see that right there? Those are crappie sitting right on the back side of that column. So let me explain to you why those fish are sitting on the back side of that column right there. All right, the wind is blowing from that direction up the lake, and you can see the lake is pretty wide right up through there. This is not a real big lake, but the wind is blowing from that direction and it's funneling right here through this bridge. So those fish are positioned, even though there's not current really per se that runs through this lake a whole lot. You get wind current because the lake constricts right here. So those fish are sitting, that's why they're sitting right on the back side of that column like that. There's a little bit of wind current, and those fish are just sitting there with their nose behind that column, and when a shad or something swims by that column, they jump out there and ambush it. So another really good place to look. Yeah, it's an obvious place. Yeah, bridges get fished a lot, but always remember this: community holes are community holes for a reason. Hey everybody, I'm gonna jump in right here. I'm actually gonna end this video right here. I'm gonna make this a two-part video. So the object of this was obviously, like I said in the beginning, I wanted to show you guys my complete electronic setup. I wanted to show you how I find crappie on a brand new body of water. We actually found some, so stick around. You'll want to see part number 2, I promise you. I'll drop it in a few days. Caught some really nice crappie on this day right here, and found some really good schools of fish. So fun day. I hope you learned a little something. This one, we mostly talked about side imaging, down imaging, and my setup at the console. In the next video I drop, we're gonna get to the good stuff up front. We're gonna get to Lowrance active target, how I actually set my active target up, how I watch my jig go to the fish, how I watch the fish react to the jig, all that kind of stuff, and we're gonna catch some fish too. So y'all come back for part number 2. Hit that subscribe button if you hadn't. I'll see you next time.